Once you've gone live with PaymentWorks, you may start to consider integrating it with your ERP or your financial system. Integrations essentially allow you to skip the manual connection process required to connect your approved registrations. Through an integration, PaymentWorks can communicate with your ERP and your ERP with PaymentWorks without you or other users at your organization having to do much more beyond approving, which essentially applies a tag of sorts to the incoming information that the integration will then understand. At PaymentWorks, we call this tagging feature registration routing. You may have heard this term previously referenced in other training videos and documentation. All in all, registration routing essentially allows you as the approver to tell PaymentWorks and subsequently your integration what to do with a specific registration and payee information. One key point to note is that the difference between registration routing in a non-integrated environment versus those that are integrated is, in non-integrated environments, you will only see registration routing appear with one option, which is approved for manual connection. This is because the action of manually connecting this payee is the precursor to an integration. So whenever an approver user in PaymentWorks creates the vendor record in your ERP, because this is being done manually, it can be created in a way that is appropriate for your ERP. And that same approver can carry the information over into PaymentWorks. In an integrated or automated environment, registration routing will show you more options in the drop-down for approval. Let's take a look at when a registration routing would come into play. Start by logging in as yourself through SSO, or if you're using a generic role in Sandbox, log in as the vendor approver. Navigate to the Vendor Master Updates tile, and then to the New Vendors tab. As with the manual connection process, you will want to stay on the Requests view. Locate a pending registration. You may recall that there are two types of full new vendor registrations, or NVRs, that you may see here. This does not change when integrated. A brand new payee or vendor, meaning someone your organization has never worked with before and has no pre-existing information of, will appear with the options to approve, reject, or return to vendor directly on the screen as seen here. With a payee that exists in your ERP, you will see the View Routing Options button instead. Remember that this button only appears because there is a TIN match between the submitted information from the invited payee or vendor and the information previously uploaded to PaymentWorks from your ERP. For reference, you can also find these previously existing payees on your Suppliers tab. Click the View Routing Options button on the registration. In the Approval Options window, you will see the same view as a non-integrated environment. To the top left, you'll have the legal name and the TIN or social security number that is causing the match, and the phone number that was submitted. To the top right, you'll see the newly submitted payee remittance address, and in the Related Records box, you'll see the information from your ERP. You should see any information here that was previously uploaded to PaymentWorks relating to or tied to the TIN or social security that was submitted and referenced in the top left corner. You'll see information like vendor numbers, site codes, remittance, and pay-to details, as well as a status. Click the drop-down menu and you'll see that there are a number of options available now. Keep in mind that the list displayed here in this training is not exclusive, and your options may differ based on your integration, your ERP, and other decisions made by your organization. Each option here will tell the integration how to handle this registration in accordance with your ERP, by tagging it with the specific actions explained in each line. Some of the standard options you may see are Create New Vendor Record, which will tell the ERP to create a brand new vendor record and thus a new vendor ID number. This is usually chosen when the TIN submitted does not actually relate to any of the information shown in the Related Records section, or if you want to create an entirely new record for this vendor. The second option is Add as a new address. This will tell the ERP to take all of the submitted information, tie it to the same vendor ID number, but intake the new remittance address showing in the right corner as a new address and create a new site code. The final option is Connect with existing records. This will tell PaymentWorks and the ERP to connect the newly submitted information and remittance address to the vendor number and site code listed in the Related Records box seen here. Once you've determined how you want to move forward with this payee, choose your option from the drop-down. You'll notice that now the Approve button has turned green and you can move forward with approving the registration. Whatever selection you've made, the registration will be tagged accordingly, and the integration will pick up the registration and use the actions associated with the tag to process the information. Depending on how your integration is built, this may occur at various time intervals throughout the day. You can also return or reject the registration if needed. Remember, rejecting will stop the payee from making any changes to their submission, and returning will require a message to the payee and allow them to make any changes. For more guidance on rejecting and returning registrations, take a look at our new vendor registrations course. Registration routing will also appear for partial and edit registrations. These options in the drop-down for each will vary a little based on the type of registration. For example, an edit registration may show an option such as overwrite existing, which will take the newly submitted address and use that to replace the previously existing address. A partial registration may show options specifically aimed at handling additional or newly submitted remittance addresses, such as add as a new address, which is the same as the one seen in a full registration, where the newly added address will get a new site code and essentially be added to the list of addresses tied to that specific payee. Remember, the approval options can differ slightly from those actually seen in your integration, as they can vary based on your ERP and requirements of your system. Once you've applied your chosen status, the integration will run accordingly to how it was built by your organization. Be sure to check back on the approved items to ensure that they have been marked as connected and are updated with your ERP assigned information.